couple of words about Wheel and Anchor, who we are and what we're all about. And so this idea of Wheel and Anchor is really the idea of a community. I've been organizing trips for members for the better part of 30 years. I just got a message here from Paula. Anyway, I've been organizing trips for Canadians for the better part of 30 years. And, you know, I was all involved in all these situations of just, you know, these big groups, you know, getting or putting busloads of people together to visit all these places around the world. And what I really realized about 6 or 7 years ago, at the time that we started Wheel and Anchor, was that what really makes the difference on a trip, it's who you're traveling with. I mean, obviously the destination and the hotels and all the things that you expect, but having a community of people that you have something in common with, you can have fun with along the way, is really such an important point. And that really is a big part of the philosophy at Wheel and Anchor. We aim to bring travelers together who sort of embody the spirit of travel and traveler as we define it. And if you, I won't go through that in any more detail. If you've read some of our materials, if you followed our newsletter, you get a sense of what I mean. And it's really my goal that everybody becomes well-traveled. And when I say well-traveled, and I repeat this like a broken record, it doesn't mean just checking off countries in a checkbox, but rather having the time to go and immerse yourself enough that you really come away feeling part of the destination. You know, and this goes to all of the destinations that we have, whether it's a experiential type trip, which is our trips where we go and visit a lot more destinations on one trip. So we spend a few nights in each place. We always try to allow lots of free time, or in this format, which we put in the sojourn category, where we're spending, you know, 5, 6 nights, in this case, 6 nights a week in the destination, because you know, there's so much to see, and you also need the free time to be able to explore it on your own. That's how you become well-traveled, and that's how you also become connected to not only your fellow travelers, but also to the people that you meet along the way. And we've had some good laughs. I was just with the group in France for the first few days. And I tell you, we meet some wonderful people along the way, and the stories, and it's the embodiment of who we are at Wheel and Anchor. So just by way of a quick introduction, my name is Gordon Dreger. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor. I curate all of the programs that we produce, but of course, you know, we now offer somewhere between 50 and 60 trips a year, judging by last year and this year. So I have an amazing team of people who help me create that, who all embody this idea of what Wheel and Anchor is all about, of community. And most important for you is Paula, who's just appeared. Hello, Paula.
Just in time.
Busy person at this point in time. Paula is our lead trip specialist and is the one who is going to answer your questions and make sure that you are really fully informed and have everything you need in order to join us on our trip. So that's that. So no further ado, let's get started. Today we're going to talk about where do you go in winter. That, with all due respect, is not Florida, and it's not, you know, Arizona or Mexico or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with those places, but there are other options, and I think Malta is a good one. And frankly, all of our live-away programs that coincide with this, and I'll talk about that at the end, what you can combine, because this program is really designed to fit. You can certainly go go for the week, absolutely, and then do something on your own, or you can combine it with one of our other live-away programs. And I'll talk about that at the end. Let's do the geography lesson first of all. Of course, Malta, as you may or may not know, is basically in the middle of the Mediterranean, almost smack dab in the middle. And this is actually a really important point. And you'll see when you hear about the history of this island and all of the civilizations that have crisscrossed this island, particularly in the last 500 years. But one of the things that we're going to see is the second oldest monument, or the second oldest buildings known to man, older than the Egyptian temples, we're going to see in Gozo. So people have been here for a long time. Why? Well, just look at the geography. It's right in the middle of the Mediterranean, so it's very accessible from all directions. Our trip begins and ends in Valletta, the capital, and we're going to stay right in Valletta. And I'll tell you about that in a second. And from there, the other beautiful thing about Malta is you can get from one side of the island to the other. And I'm talking about just the island of Malta, because Malta actually consists of 4 islands, 3 notable ones: Malta itself, Gozo, and this little island over here, Comino. And then there's another little island here, another one here. We don't count those ones. And so we're going to make a day trip to Gozo, which is absolutely worth seeing. But you can drive to any point from Valletta in about less than an hour, depending on traffic, 45 minutes, 15 minutes. So that means you can stay right in the thick of the heart of things and, get out to Hagarcin, the temples, and Marsaxlokk, the fishing village down on the southeastern coast, as well as the 3 cities. Anyway, let me get into the day by day, because I think that's what's interesting and what's important here. So first of all, you're going to arrive into Malta. Unfortunately, there are no direct flights at present from Canada to Valletta, so you've got to travel via European gateway. Of course, as I say, if you are thinking of combining this, there are live-away programs that you can do beforehand, so that you're already coming into Valletta from somewhere else in Europe, somewhere else around the Mediterranean. But otherwise, it's an easy place to fly to. There's connections from every major hub in Europe, and from every city in Canada, pretty much. So you'll get into Valletta, and this city is remarkable. I mean, you're gonna show up there. You're gonna arrive. This is one of the oldest. It's a UNESCO site. The whole city is one of these places the whole place is a UNESCO site. And it's because of the Knights of St. John. It's because of how they built the city, the fortress. There's many reasons for that. But you're going to see the whole city is actually a herringbone pattern. It's one of the first organized cities that is designed, like we're familiar with in North America. Not everybody in North America, but with a grid system, which makes it super easy to get around. You can, although it's hilly, because of course it sits up on this huge rock. You can get around and not get lost, and that's there are lots of places to stay in in Malta. But quite honestly, I've been there a number of times, and I've looked high and low where else to stay, because you pay a bit of a premium to stay in Valletta, but honestly, it's worth every penny. You want to be in the thick of things. So you're going to arrive in, get picked up as usual by our transfer, come into the city, and immediately on the first day, you're going to have time to just sort of explore. And the hotel is basically on this map. It's just adjacent to this church. It's just over here. So you can't have a better location. You're right in the thick of Valletta. So then we're going to meet our local guide. We have some lovely, charming guides that we worked with for the last couple of years that we've been going there. And he's going to take you, or she is going to take you around Valletta. And you're going to visit some pretty impressive historical sites. This is actually the Prime Minister's office, a big square opposite which is the Baraka Gardens, which are probably a highlight for most, because this is where it's just to the right of this building here, and you have an incredible view over the Grand Canal. And if some of you may have been to Malta before, because obviously cruise ships call in here, but the cruise ships arrive at whatever 6, 7, 8 in the morning, and they leave by 3, 4 in the afternoon. So you can only get so much of the island, but the arrival by ship into the Grand Harbor, I said Grand Canal before. That's because I'm not feeling 100%. The arrival into the Grand Harbor by ship is amazing. And you have the view of that from the Baraka Gardens. You look over to the 3 cities. So we'll spend some time there. We'll time it so that you can see the 12 o'clock guns. They fire the cannons off every day. It's really remarkable. And your exploration into what this city is all about and the history of it, and visiting the former hospital, an incredible structure that the Knights used as a hospital for a long time, and then it was converted for other purposes later on into the 20th century, but now is basically an event space, and so we get to see it, and it's remarkable, one building after the other, which is why it's good to spend the week here, because you can go in on your free time and see all the other things that there are to do in the city. So like any sightseeing sort of expedition that we do on the first day of the trip, the whole idea is gathering the ideas about, I need to go into the War Museum. I need to go into the Art Museum. I need to, there's so many other things to see that you may want to tag on a few days. So the next day we will go across to, as I mentioned, when you look from the Baraka Gardens in Malta, in Valletta, down over the Grand Harbor, across the way, you see what's called the 3 cities. And the three cities are these three peninsulas of land, Vittoriosa, Cospicua, and Sanglia, that were their own cities in the early days of Malta. And from here, again, these cities, you have a commanding view. That's why they are so celebrated. And nowadays, particularly Sanglia, is as you can imagine, it's a very high-end residential district in Malta, because you've got views out to the canal. You've got a lot of history, and each of these places was its own fort and its own settlement. And then at the very end, the tip of the harbor is Fort St. John, this gigantic fort that you can actually visit, and you may want to do that on your free day. But quite honestly, what a lot of our members did, there's these cute little boats that go right from the Valletta, from the base of the elevator in the city across the canal in about 10-15 minutes. They run frequently, and you get a sense of the grandeur of this this amazing place. So we'll visit all of the three cities. We'll have a beautiful lunch over there at one of our favorite spots, and then come back later in the afternoon likely by boat as well. The fun part is going over and back from Valletta by boat. I mentioned before Gozo, and really I should be showing you 100 pictures of Gozo here, because the landscapes, and you'll become immediately apparent when you depart by ferry out of the northwestern tip of Malta. You'll pass by Camino, and you'll see these massive limestone cliffs that really define the coastline of both Malta and Gozo. Spectacular. So we'll go in, and here in Gozo, there's a couple of things that are worth mentioning. First of all, the Gigantia temples. I mentioned them at the outset, between 2500 and 3600 BC. So, I mean, these things are, in the meantime, 5,000 years old, older than the temples of Egypt. And so our guide will sort of explain the role of, this type of settlement. I mean, you can imagine the amount of archaeological study that's gone into this to understand what life was like back here in basically the Stone Age. I mean, but it's incredible to see the design thought that went into these structures, long before that, we can even imagine it. We'll also visit Landy Bay. You have a picture of it. In fact, our restaurant is right here on the corner, overlooking this coastline, which is magnificent. For those that want to take a dip, you can in the sea. I went. It's a little bit, people think it's cold. It's 15 to 16 degrees in March. But if you're a cold water lover, I highly recommend swimming in the Mediterranean. You'll see the color of the water is breathtaking. And it's accentuated, of course, because of the limestone that forms the sea cliffs, as well as the ocean floor along the coast. And we'll see also the Cittadella, that was a fortress that they turned into a castle. Many, many things. We can cover it all in one day quite comfortably, and still be back in time for early evening, in time for dinner. And it'll be quite a memorable experience you'll have on Gozo. We're then going to take a day on our 5th day to head down to visit a little bit of the fishing culture, the local culture, which is these little these little blue boats, excuse me, that have eyes on the front of them. I don't think you can see them in this picture here, but there is a whole lore about how these came to be and the tradition that lies behind it. And these folks, many of them are still out. I mean, obviously you have commercial scale fishing, but all of the little restaurants that line the harbor of Marseilles have fresh seafood that is caught by the fishermen that go out in these blue boats. It's wonderful. So we'll, before we get to Marseilles, though, we'll visit the other real historical gems that Malta has to offer. And I gotta be honest with you, I didn't even know about these things. I mean, I'm very well traveled. But and I consider myself pretty good at geography, history maybe less so, but the other spot that we'll visit here, there's two things in Malta that are particularly notable. The Hypogeum, the Halsaflennium Hypogeum, which is the only known underground temple in the world that is 4,000 BC. And again, older than the pyramids of Egypt and Stonehenge in England. And they discover it underneath a house. So it's like you go into this ordinary neighborhood and you're thinking, what the heck is here? And why is it we have to book tickets weeks and weeks in advance to get in, because this place is so in demand to see. And you go into this ordinary looking house, and then you descend down by stairs into this underground temple that is mind-blowing. And they've done such an incredible job at interpreting it. about, you know, what, again, life that went on there and how this thing came into existence. And of course, the history about how they even found the thing, which is remarkable. We'll also visit Hagachin, which is part of the archaeological park on the south side of the island with this temple. These guys had a mind to the view. Magnificent view over the south side of the island in the Mediterranean. It's also one of the oldest temples in the world. So you'll see stuff that, and even if you're not really a history buff, you will be quite amazed because you just, you know, we don't really think about these things until we get to go up close and personal with them. And as I say, we'll do Marsa Schluck in the afternoon, and we'll be back in good time to enjoy some free time. And then of course there's a whole day at leisure. Here's a great aerial shot of Valletta. And again, our hotel is situated basically just over here in this section of town. So you've got the whole old town that is quite walkable. It's a bit up and down, but it's at your disposal. You've got the three cities over here. There's going to be so many things that you're going to want to do by that point. But quite honestly, what a lot of our members did is really just wander the streets and just soak it all in. You know, Valletta is famous for the famous Maltese balconies that sort of jut out, cantilevered out from the buildings, and you know, in some cases they've been magnificently restored. There's a wonderful house of the nobility that's on the main street, just not far, just down from the cathedral around here, 5-10 minute walk from your hotel, where you can go in and see a noble house that they've immaculately retained, that's, you know, from the family that lived there during the 19th century. So many things to see in Malta. And you could also, of course, go to the other side of the harbor to visit Sliema and St. Peter Port. There's a number of other places. I mean, a week hardly does it justice, but at the same time, it does do it justice. And based on the feedback we've had from our members who participated in our earlier trips, they said a week is perfect for Malta. But a week is a long way to go, all the way from Canada just to go to Malta for a week. So why we did it this way is we wanted to make this trip combinable, like so many of our liveaways are, with other programs, so you can put it together. I know a number of folks have been asking us about what can you do before and after. So I'm going to take a minute and just talk about that. Immediately before this trip, so again, just to reiterate, Malta is March 17th to the 23rd. So immediately before, we have the first half of our liveaway in Cyprus, which is here in the town, in the city that you see here, which is called Larnaca. So where you explore, this is a matter of opinion, but what I think is the more exciting part of Cyprus from a historical, from a current affairs standpoint, because we venture into the northern parts of Cyprus, which is, of course, is a divided country occupied in the north by the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. I'm not going to talk about Cyprus. That program, March 3rd to the 17th, those first 2 weeks, immediately line up. You can't, unfortunately, fly directly from Cyprus to Malta. You do have to make a stop, but it's not that big of a deal. You can typically fly in through Athens and get there in a half a day. It's not too bad. The next program that is not yet out yet, we're working feverishly on it. I just came from there literally a few days ago, is our Mallorca liveaway. Mallorca, of course, a very famous and high-profile island, in part of the Balearic Islands, south of the coast of Spain, specifically Valencia or Barcelona. And so Mallorca is the newest of our liveaway programs. It's also going to be March 3rd to the 17th. And I'm very excited. We're going to be releasing that, I think, in 2 weeks, because as they were just putting the finishing touches on it. And that is going to be a higher end program. I found a magnificent castle that we're going to stay in. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil that one, but stay tuned for the Mallorca liveaway. We'll let you know when the webinar is coming, when that program will be released. As I say, we're literally just putting the finishing touches on it. After Malta, which is perhaps the most logical combo. I mean, any of these things are possible. You can take a ferry from Valletta directly to Sicily, specifically to Pozzallo, which is a port on the southeastern coast of Sicily. Then we are going to be doing our Sicily sojourn program, which starts off in Ortigia, spends 5 nights, We spend 5 nights in Trapani on the very western tip of Sicily, and then we head up to Cefalù, which is on the northern coast of Sicily. It's an amazing program. Again, a new iteration of Sicily based on the feedback we got from our members that is going to see a lot of pieces of this magnificent island. And you can go, as I say, there's 2 ferries. There's one early in the morning and there's one later in the afternoon that leave Valletta, take you to Pozzallo, and in about 45 minutes you are in Ortigia. So that is the things that you can combine Malta with. It would make a lot of sense. This program, as usual, all the details are in your program itinerary, available at $39.90 double. The single occupancy is actually as reasonable as we could make it here in Canadian dollars. Of course, that is with everything that I mentioned in here, all of the accommodation and your host and the touring and the meals that are all included in there. Only the airfare is separate because, again, of course, our members often will combine programs together or come in to do one and then go off and do their own thing. So we can certainly facilitate airfare for you as well as cancellation insurance, which are the 2 key things that are in addition to this program. If you sign up early, in this case, the hotels give us a bit of a better deal if we get our deposits in early. So if you sign up before the end of July, you get a couple $100 off, which again makes it, I think, a pretty compelling offer for what all is in this program. Time for questions and answers, Paula. Of course, you know, the question that you always want to ask us probably going to come into your mind 5 minutes after the webinar. Drop us a note. Paula's email is there. Email is at the moment the best way to get a hold of Paula because she's taking calls like mad at the moment. The spring travel rush is in place, so have a little patience. But Paula will get back to you with any questions that you have. But in the meantime, let's take whatever questions have come in either before the webinar or oh Jesus, Paul, I just saw your message now.
That's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's all good.
Okay.
I had issues popping on.
I apologize. Now you can use the chat box. I apologize. And Michael raised his hand. So my apologies for that. The chat box is now open. So you can put your questions in the chat box or, as I say, in the Q&A box. Let's see. What is the hotel? The hotel's called the Osborne Hotel, actually. So you can look that up. We always include the name of the hotels in our additional information. We always qualify it by saying or similar, and because, you know, in case hotels in these heady travel days pull a fast one on us, doesn't happen very often, but we are staying at the Osborne Hotel. It's a delightful hotel. I toured it when I was there last year. It had just reopened after an extensive renovation. It's, you know, the rooms aren't huge, but nothing in Malta is huge because, of course, in Valletta, I should say, because, of course, you know, this is a medieval town. It's remarkable. So the Osborne, Osborne, is the name of the hotel in Valletta. Any other questions, Paula?
So someone was asking with regards to what the terrain is like for walking around. Can you touch on that?
Is even, but it is cobblestones in Valletta. It's a medieval city, so like most cities in Europe. It's even, I mean, the city is so well manicured. I mean, they really take care of it. So the streets are clean and the sidewalks are even, but it is on a hill. So your hotel is a little bit down a hill to get to the main the main drag that runs through the main to the main square of, but not drastically so. I mean, I'm talking about a vertical elevation difference of maybe 10-15 meters kind of thing. So it's but some of the streets are more up and down, but the main streets that you're going to walk along all the time are there is some, but it's not like you're not climbing mountains here, but yeah, it's an ancient city on a hill.
Yeah, so definitely comfortable walking shoes are a must to pack.
And we have our mobility requirements that we mention in all of our programs. It's important that you look at those 10,000 steps a day. You really, to enjoy Malta and Valletta to the fullest, you need to be able to walk, because they do drive in the center of Valletta, but it's chaos because the streets are so narrow and it's just hard to get anywhere. So you got to walk.
Also clarify how many people will be on this trip.
This year we had, was it a dozen, I think, Paula, if I recall.
I think it was around that.
So depends how many people sign up. It will, on a trip like this, it will never be more than 18. So we are committed to small group arrangements. The first year that we went, we had, I think, 8. We had a small group. And this year we had, I think, a few more, 12. So if I was to guess, I would guess 10 to 16 in that range. But it
Yeah.
will under no circumstances be more than 18. If we have a lot of interest, and we do have a lot of interest for the program, we'll just put another week on. We'll just add another week, but we're not making the group any bigger.
Definitely. I know there's quite a few members that have traveled with us that have been waiting for this in combination
Yes.
with a few other options. So I'm glad you touched on the combinations as well. And members, definitely you can reach out to me via phone or email. Just as Gordon said, be patient. You might not get me, but I will return your messages, I promise. And I've got an additional information document which will detail all the arrival, departure details, and I can also share with you that of Sicily and Cyprus on either end of it if you want to extend your stay next winter, because it is better than Florida.
It is undoubtedly better than Florida. But anyway, that's don't let the Florida Board of Tourism hear that from me. But again, we don't sell trips to the US. So anyway, come
Those
join
are
us.
all that I don't have any other questions.
Just one other question that
Oh.
I didn't address. People always want to know what the weather's like in March. This is springtime. Malta is one of the sunniest places in the Mediterranean. So is Cyprus. They get a lot of sun, and you'll see that because it's very dry, fairly dry and arid landscape. So I mean, you could get typically what I would say is it would probably be very unlikely if it dropped below 15 degrees. It's most likely to be sort of in the 17 to 22 during the day. That's the range that typically is in. Could it rain? Yes. Has it rained on previous trips? I don't think so. But it could. But it's not like it's going to rain for a week. That's just not going to happen in Malta. I think they'd love it, but it just doesn't get that much rain. So the weather is frankly perfect.
Perfect. Michael, I'm just popping you a message here. I appreciate you pointing that out to us. And yeah, but no other questions have come in at the moment. So feel free to reach out. I look forward to hearing from those that are looking to join us.
Drop us a note. We'd love to have you on this trip. Get a hold of that early bird bonus by signing up early. And also in case, the trip does sell out early, it does happen on some of our trips. But yeah, we'd love to have you along and show you Malta. It's an amazing, amazing place, a wonderful country. I truly love it. Thanks for joining us today. Take care, and we'll see you all soon. Our next upcoming webinar is next week on Tuesday, and it is Paula.
Put me on the spot. I think we've got Andalusia, or one of our Italian.
We have
ones coming
next
up.
week. We have Southern Italy on
Andalusia.
Tuesday, and we have
Spain.
Andalusia on Thursday next week. So come join us for those. All right, take care, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. Bye-bye for now.